In this video, I'll share some ideas on how to use Lego outside of battle in Dungeons & Dragons. Battles are great in Dungeons & Dragons, but they're only part of the fun. And I think that exploration and puzzles are another part of Dungeons & Dragons that's very important, at least in my campaigns. Let's break down the scene we're experiencing. The players are invited to an event of a very famous tradesperson in the town they just arrived at. This event is a great opportunity for them to meet the town and to follow their inkling that there's something wrong with this tradesperson. They're hiding something. Maybe they are involved in some shady dealings. So they arrive at the party. The big party is taking place at the home of the tradesperson. At one point in the evening, there's something that takes everybody's attention. In my game, this was a performance of a singer from a rather peculiar establishment in the town that everybody was raving about and talking about up front. And so I made her performance a little magical by letting everybody make a wisdom saving throw to see if they can break free of her enthralling charms. So this was the perfect opportunity for them to explore the property. Now the property is of course very big, and there is a way to still guide your players through it by giving them clues on where to look. And I think that placement of guards is a great way of guiding your players, because if a guard is guarding something, then probably it's worth investigating by the players. So let me break down the map. And of course the property is way bigger, but I expect my players to follow these clues. And if they don't, I have the other rooms at least prepared mentally. And even if I don't have a map for them, there is still stuff to discover there, so it doesn't feel railroaded. The players will enter the property through this gate, through this door from the outside, and they'll enter into a sprawling, beautiful garden. An interior garden with a big old oak tree with a little pond beneath that. And it's a very magical experience as they're coming in from a cold, weathered outside, and they're entering this rather Mediterranean space. Okay, so I prepared the map in a way that fights can happen, so there is enough space, but I give the players clues that it's not a good idea to break out a fight immediately. This event is packed full of people, very influential people in the town, and also there are a lot of guards present. So they need to be a little more sneaky, and this is where I think the benefit of Lego maps comes into play really well. So as I said, garden below, and upstairs the big hall, it's off screen on this side. So the room they are going to investigate are the private chambers of the tradesperson, and they are over here. So there is a guard placed in front of the door, and they need to somehow get this dwarven fella off his guard duty. What my players did is they took an NPC and made him drunk. So our fighter is talking to the guard and convincing them that they need help carrying this person down to the carriages. So while these two move down the stairs and are getting to the exit, our rogue is breaking into the room. The moment our rogue enters the room, I go into a kind of round-to-round play without letting them know immediately. So how this works is basically for every major action that the rogue is taking in the room, the other person needs to do something to keep the guards away. Even with more players, the principle remains the same. If they decide to go into the room with more players, they might have more actions there, but less time because there are less people convincing guards. They can change that around to have more people convincing guards and less people exploring the room. So it works either way. So the first thing I did was explain the interior to the rogue a little more. Like the dark wooden desk with the polished surface and the gold-trimmed feather in an ink bottle on the top. With that, I wanted to convey the vibe of the scene rather than explaining all the details, because that's where the fun is at. So I let the players decide where to go first and what to do there. So for example, our rogue wanted to see what this is on here. So I explained that it's a glass showcase with a scroll inside. And of course, he wanted to get the scroll, so I let them make a check on if they could break the showcase open. And now I'm moving over to the player outside that's keeping the guards entertained. And they need to come up with something to keep the guards away. So now they've put the person into the carriage is taken off. What next do they do to help the player inside and keep the guards entertained? And with this gameplay mechanic, the person here can explore the room. Let me break down the ideas in this room to help you get started. The room is basically split into sections. The first and most obvious one is the working area with the big desk and the showcase. The showcase is a great way to give your players something to loot and have it feel important, so you can place anything in there you want. It can be loot, it can be a story item. The desk, of course, can have more details as well. In my case, the desk had a hidden compartment with some clues in there. But you can also use the walls. These walls have some bricks with not on top stud technique, and this can give players a clue to investigate this wall even further. Break out some of these to see what's behind. And I don't literally place stuff in the wall. It wouldn't make sense from a building perspective. They would be able to spot stuff way too easily. So it's more about giving them visual clues that something could be there, and then they need to do checks like investigation or maybe arcana to understand what they're seeing a little more. On the other side we have a bed, and of course you can hide stuff under the bed, you can hide stuff in the bed, maybe a person even. I think it's very fun to have NPCs hidden in places and players discovering them. Maybe there's another crew having broken in and just were able to hide quickly. Or maybe they discover a plot against the person they're investigating and somebody's trying to kill them or whatever. So bed's a great place to hide stuff. And then of course we have stuff that's very traditional, like a chest. This chest can be a mimic if you want to make it hard for your players, or it can be just something to loot. On this side of the room there's happening a little more. So there are different clues that players can discover. There is this chalice here with the golden lid. I don't know what's inside, let's find out. I put something on the wall here. In my case it was a wall carpet, and of course behind that wall carpet was a safe that they could break into, but it was hard to see. And as you can see in the fireplace I put some white pieces. Those represent letters being burned. And so the fireplace is only glimmering with some coals left, and they can pull stuff out to see what somebody tried to hide. And this whole time, every time they did a check, every time they tried to investigate something or break something open, I let the other player make a check if they can make the guards stay away. And this put a time crunch on the person in the room, because the player in the room, of course, knew that the other one was making checks the whole time. And so they didn't take their time to explore every little detail, and the room felt much bigger because of it, because they knew they weren't able to explore it all. This is just one idea of how to use Lego outside of battle in Dungeons & Dragons. I would love to hear your ideas in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!